My name is Annie Sand, and I'm going to read the first couple sections from my essay in this beautiful issue. The essay is titled Flight Machines. In the summer of '81, Mom packed all her earthly possessions into the back of an olive green 1975 Ford Pinto. Puke green, she called it, her father's choice, purchased the previous summer when he got sick of driving her 3 hours north to college each term. Despite little interior space, the car was built like a tank, with wide bumpers and a long, narrow grille like a chevron mustache. A future owner would roll it on a rainy night and discover it still ran fine. The car was solid, as her father put it, heavy enough to hold up in crashes, janky enough to be cheap. But for his most mechanically gifted child, he didn't see that as a problem. She loaded her gray suitcase full of clothes into the trunk, alongside a cardboard box full of books, a few CDs, and a couple keepsakes. In the back was the blonde Takamine acoustic guitar she bought herself as a graduation gift. And laid in the passenger seat, a map west to Manhattan, Kansas, her first life untethered from the family farmhouse. She hadn't spent much time dreaming about her future, in a house with a temper-prone, hard-drinking father, and a mother who spent most days sleeping in a green armchair pulled up to the window. The future was a basket too flimsy to hold many eggs. But then she interviewed for a job at Kansas State University and fell in love. The limestone buildings of the campus shone in the sun the same way the limestone steeples of her home did. A river braided itself through the center of town. And unlike the close, forested hills of the place she was leaving, in Kansas you could look out your window and watch the lightning blast down from the sky 1, 2, 5 miles away. The horizon line was gray with distance. She said goodbye to her parents and 2 younger siblings, filled up the gas from the tank behind her father's shop, and pulled out onto the road. A few quick turns carried her through town and out onto the open highway. The spring I turned 21, I left someone I hadn't been able to leave for 8 years. I'd left and come back, like a tide that didn't yet understand its lot in life. And then, one crystal cold night in March, I said goodbye and watched him drift away over the horizon of my life. Like a lighthouse that had suddenly transformed into a listing ocean liner, its stern lights blinking Morse code messages from across the water as it was pulled by invisible currents further and further away. It took a long time, a year really, for these driftings to carry him completely out of sight. But eventually they did. For a moment I paused, staring up into the blue-black of the winter sky that seemed so much like an ocean. And then with a deep exhaling, I turned inland. The job Mom had taken at Kansas State was a hall director position, basically $900 a month to live in the dorm and make sure everything ran smoothly. Ford Hall was hers. 10 stories of co-eds who generally didn't give her too much trouble. Her apartment was big enough that the 9-foot sofa clearly repurposed from the lobby didn't feel outrageous. She eventually brought 2 salvaged railroad boxes to be her coffee table and nightstand. Her guitar went in a nook in the wall probably meant for a breakfast table. Every morning she'd walk 10 feet to her office, work for a few hours, then have lunch at the dining hall. Still in the days when some universities had their own food service, which meant local produce and fresh-baked bread every morning. Then she would read in her apartment for a few hours before dinner and a bit more work. Sometimes there was an emergency in the middle of the night, but generally things were quiet. It was a great gig, she tells me over the phone as I drive to the grocery store. I put $600 away a month because, with room and board paid for, I can feel her shrug on the other end of the line. Then there's a pause. I don't know why I ever left that job, really, she sighs. I guess I just thought it was time to move on. A few months after I left the person I couldn't leave, I made my own flight from Ohio to Iowa in a red Toyota Corolla, racing toward the line between big green fields and bigger sky. This part of the country was planed flat by glaciers, great lumbering ice giants deeper than the Grand Canyon flowing down from Canada. They ground down mountains, erased topographies, and caught boulders the weight of killer whales between their toes. Whatever interstate you take through this soft belly of the country, the horizon they wrought will define your view. It's easy to get bored of it. I had many times before and have many times since. But that day, all those flat roads terminating in sky felt like runways that could launch me everywhere. "What you thinking about?" Mom asked from the driver's seat, her left hand on the wheel while her right balanced bottled coffee on her knee. We were used to companionable silence during long road trips, and this question was how one of us signaled that we were ready again for conversation. "Nothing at all," I said honestly. My whole life was packed into the parts of the car not filled by our bodies. 3 boxes of books, 3 more of clothes, a small bookshelf, a lamp, a desk chair, though no desk, and 2 backpacks. I knew she wanted to talk, but I was too busy reveling in a strange, breakneck feeling somewhere between flying and falling. A knowing settled into my gut as I looked out over the glacier-made plain. If I could leave him, I could leave anything. Thanks, guys.